Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about a very important law for public school teachers in the Philippines. It's Republic Act number 4670, also called as the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers. It was signed on June 18, 1966, and it is still in effect today. The law has 35 sections grouped into 7 topic areas, and by the end, you will know the main rights and protections it gives to teachers. So, what is Republic Act number 4670? In simple terms, it's the law that protects public school teachers and tries to make teaching a respected and well paid career. Here are three quick facts. First, it has 35 sections of rights and benefits. It's organized into 7 main topic areas and it has been in force since 1966. Now, the question is, why was it made? Lawmakers wanted three things. First, better pay and working conditions so teaching can compete with other careers. Second, to attract and keep capable people in the profession. And lastly, to recognize a simple truth that education depends on good teachers and helps the whole country grow. For example, think of a first year DepEd teacher. By reading RA 4670, he or she discovers the 35 specific protections that now cover his or her job, from fair pay to job security, because simply knowing these rights exist is the first step to actually using them. Sections 1 and 2 set the goal of the law, a stronger teaching profession, and explain exactly who is covered. So the law protects full-time classroom teachers at every level. It also covers guidance counselors and school librarians, vocational and industrial arts instructors, school supervisors, and administrators. However, it does not cover professors in state colleges and universities, school nurses, physicians, and dentists, or other non teaching staff. So it's really focused on classroom teachers. Just to give you more of an idea, let's have a quick example. Let's say a MAPE teacher and a school librarian are both protected, but the campus nurse is not. So it's very easy to identify. It shows how the law draws a clear line. It focuses on those doing teaching and academic work, and not every school employee is covered by this law. Sections 3 and 4 are about how teachers are hired. So there are clear minimum education requirements and they depend on the level you want to teach. For kinder and elementary, you need a bachelor's degree in elementary education. For high school, a bachelor's in education with a major and minor, or a regular bachelor's degree plus 18 units of education. For vocational or technical courses, a bachelor's in that field plus 18 education units is needed. And lastly, for college level, a master's degree in the specific area. A few things that are good to know are the following. If no qualified applicant is available, a temporary teacher can be hired. Exam results are made public and hiring follows exam rank. If you already have civil service eligibility, there's no probation. If not, you serve about 1 year on provisional status. So let's have a quick example. Let's say Mr. De La Cruz, a BS Ed graduate, because he already holds the right degree, he meets the minimum qualification and can be hired to teach high school right away. The clear requirements tell every applicant exactly what they need to prepare. So if you wanted to teach in high school level, you should have a bachelor's in education. Or if you wanted to try and teach college level, you should have a master's degree. So those are specified here in this law. Sections 5 and 6 are about stability. Simply put, your job is protected and you can't be moved to another station without your consent. Security of tenure is guaranteed, and if you were hired on provisional status, you become permanent after 10 years. Okay? After 10 years, I'd like you to keep note of that, of continuous faithful service. With regards of transfer, no one can move you without your consent except for a valid reason. But even if you are transferred for a valid reason and you don't really like to be transferred, you can file for an appeal. So while you have that appeal, the move is paused while your appeal is being reviewed. No transfers are allowed within 3 months before an election, and if a transfer is approved, the government pays your family's moving. So we need to take note of that. So 3 months before any election, you were not allowed to be moved. And let's say a transfer is approved, then the government needs to shoulder all the moving expenses or the moving costs. So example here, let's say Miss Reyes, her school can't simply move her to a far off town. She has to agree first. And if she believes a transfer is unfair, she can appeal and the move is put on hold until it's reviewed. That's job security working in real life. Section 7 to 9 are about fairness. So every teacher gets a written code of conduct and strong protections if they ever face charges. If a teacher is charged, they have the right to be told the charges in writing and also to see all the evidence in the case, to defend themselves or be represented by a person or organization they choose, and to appeal to clearly named authorities. On top of that, no publicity is allowed while a case is ongoing. Of course, it is to protect the teacher's reputation. Then every teacher gets a copy of the code of conduct, and charges are first heard by a fair committee, a superintendent, a teacher's organization representative, and a supervisor. So let's say a teacher was accused by a parent. So under this law, the teacher must be told the charges in writing, and the teacher must be given a fair chance to defend himself or herself. So no teacher can be punished on rumor alone because we have what we call due process. Due process protects everyone. For sections 10 to 12, it covers dignity. The main idea is the teachers are judged only on their professional merit and they are free in how they teach. First, no discrimination. No discrimination in terms of hiring, on the job, or when service ends. Only professional merit counts. Second, when possible, married couples who are both teachers are placed in the same area so they can be together. And the third, we have academic freedom. So teachers are free to choose their teaching methods and how they run their classroom. So I'd like to emphasize the teaching methods, not not to the point where teachers will just teach whatever they want. Academic freedom in terms of how they would like to teach. Sections 13 and 14 cover working hours. Classroom teaching is capped each day, and any extra work earns extra pay. The limit is 6 hours of actual classroom teaching per day, and any overtime or added duties earn at least 25% extra pay. So I'd like you to take note of the 6 hours, 6 hours of actual classroom teaching. Of course, this does not include different teaching tasks such as checking of papers, etc. Now, how does this work? Schedules must leave time to prepare lessons and check student work. Teachers can be asked to teach up to 8 hours only when truly needed, and that extra time is paid at the regular rate plus at least 25% more. So there will be a 25% more given if you need to teach 8 hours. Other extra duties like co-curricular activities also earn at least 25% additional pay. So example, let's say Sir Ben, after finishing his 6 hours of classroom teaching, he stays to coach the varsity team because that's extra work beyond his normal load. The law says he must be paid at least 25% more for it. So in this law, extra effort earns extra pay. Sections 15 to 17 are about pay. The rule is simple. Teacher salaries must be fair, livable, and grow steadily over time. So salaries must first compare well with other jobs needing similar training and skill. Second, salaries must let teachers live decently and support their families. Dapat sapat naman para mabuhay ang pamilya ng mga teachers. Be graded fairly so harder, higher roles are paid more. There are also built-in raises. So built-in raises, it is an automatic increase every 3 years if your rating is at least satisfactory, reaching the top of the pay scale within 10 years. And local government pay can never be lower than national government pay. So we have here a teacher with a satisfactory rating doesn't have to beg for a raise because after 3 years, he or she automatically receives a raise. Sections 18 to 21 protects a teacher's pay. So beyond the basic salary, teachers get allowances and their pay is shielded from unfair cuts. First, we have a cost of living allowance. So pay keeps up as prices hike. Second, a hardship allowance, at least 25% extra for difficult or risky work locations. Third, salaries must be paid in real money, cash, check, or treasury warrant that can be cashed anywhere. And finally, no unfair deductions. Nothing can be taken from your pay unless the law allows it and you agree in writing. So, hindi dapat bawasan ng walang pakundangan ang inyong sweldo nang hindi ninyo alam. The example, so let's say a teacher in a far-flung island school receives a 25% hardship allowance on top of her pay. Or let's say locations where you need to hike mountains or you really need to walk kilometers before you reach the school every day, you are entitled for a 25% hardship allowance on top of your pay. 23. So for sections 22 and 23, this covers the teacher's health. So from regular checkups to coverage for work injuries. Teachers get a free medical exam before they start and at least once every year after that. Apart from that, if the exam shows treatment or hospitalization is needed, that's free too. So libre yun. And where medical facilities are scarce, travel for care is reimbursed. So let's say there are no hospitals near you, no clinics near you, and you need to travel, let's say a city away. So everything, your travel expenses will be reimbursed. Injuries and strain are also covered. So work-related injuries are protected under existing laws, and the physical and mental strain of teaching is recognized as a job-related illness. So example, before classes begin, Miss Lim gets a free medical exam, repeated free every school year. If the exam shows she needs treatment, that's covered too. Sections 24 to 26 give teachers time to study or recover and a pay boost at retirement. So teachers are entitled to first study leave. So for study leave, let's say after 7 years of service, you can take up to 1 year of study leave with at least 60% pay. So even if you are in a study leave, you can still receive a pay with at least 60% as long as you carry a full load and pass 75% of your courses. Second, we have what we called indefinite sick leave. So, indefinite sick leave is granted for illnesses that need more than a year of treatment. So, let's say you're sick, you need to take a rest. However, you do not know how long will it take, then you were entitled for indefinite sick leave. Next, we have retirement raise. Retirement At retirement, teachers get a one salary range raise, which increases both the pension and the lump sum pay. Example, we have here Sir Garcia, after 7 years of service, he can take a full year of study leave to finish his master's while still receiving 60% of his pay. So, in this section, the law actively supports teachers who want to keep learning and growing. For sections 27 to 29, give teachers a voice. So, here, teachers are free to join together and, let's say, join organizations. So they have the freedom to organize. So teachers may freely form and join organizations with no prior permission needed. So you do not need to ask permission to your supervisor that you're about to join an organization. Also, It is against the law to punish, fire, or pressure a teacher for joining one or being active in it. So, pwedeng maparusahan or it's against the law, labag sa batas na i-fire ka, tanggalin ka sa trabaho dahil sa sumali ka sa isang organization o kaya naman ay pilitin ka na sumali sa isang organization. So these groups also get a seat at the table. National teachers organizations are consulted on education policies, professional standard policies about teachers, welfare and social security. So example, teachers in a division forming their own local organization with no permission needed and that group joining discussions on new DepEd policies. It turns the right to organize into a real voice in decisions that affect them. Because as mentioned, the organizations where teachers are belong to are also involved in terms of policy making. Sections 30 to 32 are about making the law work and the penalties for breaking it. So the Secretary of Education writes the rules that put the law into action and submits a yearly budget to fund these teacher benefits. There are real penalties. Anyone who blocks or denies these rights can be fined from 100 to 1,000 pesos or jailed. And if the offender is a public official, they are also dismissed from government service. So the example makes the consequence clear. Let's say a principal who withholds a teacher's rightful pay isn't just being unfair. He or she can be fined or even dismissed from government service because, you know, as we have discussed earlier, being paid for this profession is also part of the teacher's right. Sections 33 to 35 are the closing rules that tie everything together and put the law into effect. The repealing clause means all the laws and rules that conflict with this act are repealed or adjusted. The separability clause means that if one part is ever struck down, the rest of the law still stands. And the effectivity clause, so the law took effect the day it was approved, and that was June 18, 1966. So if a court voids one section, the rest of RA 4670 still stays in full force. Even if a court strikes down one section of RA 4670, the rest of the law still stands. This separability rule keeps the protections intact instead of letting a single flaw bring down the entire law. Now let's bring it all together. Here's what the Magna Carta really promises teachers. First, dignity and security, job security, fair process, and freedom in the classroom. Second, we have fair and rising pay, livable salaries, automatic raises, and protected allowances. Third, care and rest, free healthcare, leave to study or recover, and a retirement boost. And fourth, a collective voice, so the teachers have the freedom to organize and help shape education policy. The bottom line is that good teachers are a national investment. From job security to fair pay, RA 4670 quietly shapes the daily working life of every public school teacher, including you in your own future classroom. Is this law still relevant? Yes, RA 4670 still stands today, and newer laws have reinforced it rather than replaced it. So these include the 1987 Constitution, the Professionalization Act and its amendment, the Career Progression Order, the standardization laws, and Civil Service Commission rules. The key point is that these laws reinforce, not replace, the Magna Carta. Together, they protect teachers' rights and raise standards, and more than 50 years later, the issues it addresses still matter to teachers. Imagine this law was passed, was enacted 1966. It's been decades, but still the issues it addresses is still relevant. If you remember, let's say that if you have remembered only 5 things from this video, from this discussion, make them these. So first one, security of tenure. Your job is protected by law. Remember that. Number two, due process, a fair hearing before any penalty. So you have the right to receive the charges in writing. You also have the right to have access to the evidences. You also have the right to have someone represent you, so on and so forth. Next, number three is the 6 hour teaching rule, reasonable classroom hours. For the right to professional growth, the study leave and the career study leave for your career advancement. And five, right to fair compensation, livable and rising pay. To put these takeaways into action, just imagine a teacher knowing these five rights helps the teacher calmly stand up for fair treatment instead of staying silent. So always remember that awareness is what turns rights on paper into rights in practice. So knowing these rights and knowing this law will help you to be calm and to somehow be knowledgeable about the things that you are entitled to. So let me leave you with one question worth thinking about. If teachers are expected to shape the future of the nation, shouldn't they also be protected, supported, and empowered? Think about the chain. When teachers are protected, students benefit. When students benefit, schools improve. And when schools improve, the whole nation moves forward. Valuing teachers is really an investment in our future. Let's imagine a well-supported teacher who works with focus and heart, and whose students often grow up to uplift their own communities. Valuing teachers really does ripple outward to the whole nation. In closing RA 4670, we can conclude that it is more than just a law. It recognizes the vital role that teachers play in building the nation. In simple terms, the law protects teachers' rights, promotes their welfare, supports their professional growth, and ensures the respect they deserve. And this is also your responsibility. Understanding this law is part of being a professional, because knowing your rights is the first step to upholding them. For example, a teacher who truly knows RA 4670 can confidently claim the benefits she's entitled to, and, just as importantly, carry out her duties well. knowing the law works both ways. And that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. If this helped you understand the Magna Carta for public school teachers, please like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments which law or policy we should cover next. Once again, maraming salamat po at mabuhay ang mga guro ng Pilipinas.